Peace, love, and Black Power family. It's been a minute, but I'm excited to be back on with you. And we have a very special episode to Get This Wisdom live this afternoon for you. One of our most powerful brothers right now in the movement has graciously accepted our offer to come on and speak with us and give us some of his good knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We have in the building my brother, your brother, Black Panther for the Mossi Warrior Clan, a BB Theodie family. How are you?
Doing well. I'm Vivi Fahidie, which basically means peace, power, and African liberation.
Indeed. So I'm gonna step back for a minute. For those who aren't aware of you, which I think is not that many, do you mind sharing with our audience who you are, what you represent, and going into a little bit about the Mossi Warrior Clan?
Okay. They call me Black Panther. I am one of the co-founders of the Mossi Warrior Clan. What I represent is getting people back to their African traditions, culturally, spiritually, so that we can practice in terms and ways that our ancestors did. We started the Mossi Warrior Clan to focus on West African studies. It is now branched to Central, South, North, and all over Africa. We didn't want to present the usual narrative, which is Kemet. Although we have studied Kemet, we wanted to present you with some of our more direct ancestors in the West and in Central Africa. And that is what we try to do at the Mossi Warrior Clan. And just introduce people into some texts, into some research that they hadn't heard of in other parts of Africa.
Powerful. So, I am just a fan of yours, if you want to call it that. I'm so honored to be speaking with you right now. You have done so much for our community, and you have given so much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So I definitely want to say thank you one more time. When I connected with the brother who I've been trying to get a hold to for a long time now, he was more than, just warm and willing to communicate with me. He didn't look down or anything. He just looked at me like I was his sister. So I'm just so grateful for that. And he said, well, what do you want to talk about, Queen? What do you have on your mind? And my platform personally, aside from Get This Wisdom magazine, is about the Black family structure. Without the Black family, there is no Black power. And right now we have all these different types of agendas going on, and they've been in place for decades and generations now. And I wanted to get our brother's mind, his insight on a couple of the agendas specifically, those being the effeminization of the Black man, as well as Black feminism. So we're going to go right into it. Like, we about to go right into it right here, right now. So, brother, the floor is yours. I'm a student right now.
Well, when you talk about the Black family structure, I always say this quote from my brother from the Mossi Warrior Clan, Amin Ma'at Ra. He says, the word abot or abet means family in the language of Ronnie Kemet, expressed through Medu Neter. And it basically alludes to the thing of a man must first be a provider for his abet family to assume the title of what's called a wasir, or what some people will say Osiris or Asar. So he's a patron figure in the Kemet spirituality system, because he is the one that every king ascribes to be, inspires himself to be the upright man, a stand-up guy, a wasir. So that tells you how important family is, right? That tells you how important leading your family as an African male is. That basically you are a king because you lead your family. Without your family, you have not yet ascended into your kingship. You still may have the attributes of a king and live a king lifestyle, but your kingship comes with your family. So that's very, very important when we talk about the Black family structure from an African perspective, because that's the only perspective that we should be looking at, is the perspective that of the culture in which we come from. So Black men specifically, I'm talking to the brothers because that's what I represent. We have to take care of our families. We have to be the provider, the protector, the nurturer, all the things that your grandmother put into you when you was a little boy. We just, have to do them. Some of us do excellent jobs. Some of us fall short. But there's always room for redemption in most cases when getting your family back together, because your family, like the quote said, is how you ascend to your kingship. As the sister said, without the Black family, there is no Black power. That is the power behind what we are doing in the community. We all should be looking towards the goal of making Black families, Black families. That is a revolutionary act in of itself, as Ashraf Kwesi once taught me. In this day and age, having a Black family is a revolutionary act, with all the other influences in the world to try to steer you away from the Black woman, to try to characterize her in a negative light, to stereotype her as being mean and stuck up. When you choose a Black woman as your queen, that is a revolutionary act. You have now entered something, a sacred fraternity, as I like to say, of Black men that have chosen Black women. And I applaud all the brothers that do so, because in this day and age, it's getting real scarce sometimes. But we fight the good fight and we uplift our women, because we know that we are nothing without our women. And when you produce children, raising children in a Black environment, we are culturally fulfilling our responsibility as Africans and making sure that we plant seeds for the next generation to hold this line, so that we may one day have victory and have sovereignty in the way that our ancestors once had.
Oh, I'm sitting over here. I got my notebook, my book of life, as I call it, and I'm taking notes, because we have to really recognize what's going on, what's been taking place amongst our community for forever. And when it comes to the Black man, him being the protector, if you want to get to the child, you first take out the line of defense, which is the Black man, and that is happening on all fronts. You got them being slaughtered in the streets, imprisoned, being turned gay. Then you got the woman who doesn't, like, her mind, she doesn't understand her ignorance, and she attacks him from the inside out. So it's kind of like checkmate at that point. However, when it comes to understanding the problem, you first have to acknowledge the problem. You have to know what it is when you see it. So when we have our brother speaking with us right now, he's definitely giving you what you need to understand what's going on with our Black men, and it's particularly that effeminization of him. So carry on, brother. What do you think this source of effeminization, like, where did it start from? Like, because due to my studies, I go back to the slave field and I look at the butt breaking and things of that nature, and how genetically information is passed down, it's stored, because DNA has memory. So when I look at it from that aspect, I see, okay, some of remnants of that butt breaking is still within our men genetically. However, where do you think it got its root?
That's a topic. It's very disheartening when you think about the situation that we're in now and where it started from. So there's a study. It's a relatively new program. It's called epigenetics, and through this study, they analyzed African American DNA, and they found that African Americans suffer from trauma, multiple trauma in our DNA. There's a specific spot on our DNA. It's called FKBP5. That's FKBP5. They said that this spot is afflicted on Americans, the majority of us, stress-related trauma to this particular area on our DNA strand. Now, the epigenetics program instituted by the National Institute of Health, it's a $190 million program. So they're looking at this program to go 5 years studying different type of things like this. Trying to look at origins of cancer, human development, heart disease, mental illness, all these other conditions, right? But in studying those things, they found this affliction in African Americans. So when you bring up the buck breaking that, occurred when we were on the plantation, this is a part of that trauma that we have that's causing this strand to be afflicted. The horrors of the Ma'afa are still in our DNA. The horrors of the Arab slave trade are still in our DNA. So when you ask me where does the ephemization come from, I have to go back to these periods in which occurrences, like you said, buck breaking occurred, forcing sexual acts on people that they had no sexual desire to participate in. Being that we see that we are afflicted, we can't help but draw from that time period and say, this could be the cause of some of the things we're seeing. Now, it's not the only cause, because we're actually mimicking behavior. And this is one of my points and what I recommend for repatriation, because we've been around this Caucasian for far too long. We can look in his cultures, Rome, which they treat America like Rome and Greece, Greco-Roman culture, and we can see he had no problem with this type of behavior. This ephemization, this homosexuality, he had no problems with this. So we've been around and picking up character traits. We've been around being what Amos Wilson calls assimilates. Assimilating into American culture has been for our detriment. And now you see brothers and sisters emulating things that you didn't see when our grandparents were alive during their time period. So this is why I say we need to get out of here, because you start to imitate the imitators. And that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing. It's even made its way into our music. Professor Griff talks about hip hop in its early stages, the high infinite power healing our people. Well, it's not that anymore in most cases. In most cases, you see a bunch of foolery. And now we have to hold our musicians accountable for assimilating into these feminine cultures, wearing outfits and behaving themselves as straight men when presenting something that's totally different. You are confusing the youth when you are wearing women's clothes. You are confusing the youth when you are wearing women's shoes. You are confusing the youth when you are wearing a purse. This is not how straight men behave in our culture. And if you are on the other team, brother, make it known fast. Because the youth see this, they are idolizing you. You are a role model by default because the culture puts out that if I do this, I can have a lot of money and be successful. And that's a dream for a lot of young Black boys and girls. So they look at you as this is how I become successful. That's what you're putting out. And it's not for our benefit. So we got dealt an extremely bad hand in the beginning, but now we are continuing the bad hand. Now we are taking the aces out of our deck, the jokers out of the deck, and playing the cards that we are dealt. Instead of elevating, instead of getting back to our culture, instead of rebooting, instead of doing for self, we are assimilating into a culture that was never for us. So when you talk about the feminization of the Black male, you have to look at our entertainment industry in today and hold our entertainers accountable. What is the message that you are putting out to the youth?
Right and exact, right and exact. And that brings me to something you just mentioned with the Greco-Roman society. And this is a little bit off subject. However, I feel the need to express this right now because these are recent developments here in the city of Detroit. As you all know, the Detroit public school system, like in any other melanated place in this country, has been under attack for the last few years. Uh, Last month, when the school year started, they shut down all of the drinking water in the public schools. And then within the last 2 to 3 weeks, an announcement was made and on the Detroit Free Press, which is one of the main sources of mainstream news here. It was announced that a public school is going to be built in Detroit like none other. It's going to be, and this hurts my feelings because it is something that we all been fighting against. It's going to be a 35,000 student Detroit public school with dormitories. And in that article, you can pull it up online. It says that they are going to be teaching Greco-Roman like history. This is what this public school is going to be pushing. Like we've already been dealing with it one way or another, but it's smack dab in our face right now. So all of the public schools, we only have 56 left within the city of Detroit. 200 weed dispensaries, 56 public schools. They're going to close all of them down, put a public school in the heart of the city with dormitories. This is public information. And put our children in those schools and force them to take in this Greco-Roman culture. So I just had to express that because the brother had spoke upon the Greco-Roman society. Forgive me for taking over. So getting back into our topic, when we look into the Black family structure, we know that our men have been severely attacked on all avenues. And we look at the woman, the Black woman, and we all know a nation can rise no higher than the Black woman. But we have this thing going on, this thing, the Black feminist agenda. And people really don't understand what that construct is and where it came from. So, brother, do you mind sharing with our audience? Oh, I've been on mute this whole time.
No, I've heard you. I heard everything you were. I have a few questions about the school before we go into that, if I may. I heard you say they were closing down the public schools. Sounds like consolidation into a mass school with dormitories, and they're going to be teaching Greco-Roman culture. Now, when they say they are teaching Greco-Roman culture, are they just putting that as a part of a curriculum, or are they saying they are modeling the school after a Greco-Roman apparatus, so to speak?
Now that I would have to be a little bit get more clear on, but I do know within that article it stated that the curriculum itself is definitely going to be based on Greco-Roman culture.
And wow, that is wow, that is a first. I've never heard a school take a position on a historical narrative, excuse me, to where they have to even mention that. I'm just gonna call it what it is. That is dangerous. Not, but because a school has taken a particular stance on the side of history in which they want to be on. That's dangerous because as an educational system, you should always be non-biased. You should want to teach a multitude of academic disciplines. So to a public school to come out and say, we're going to model our curriculum off of Greco-Roman culture, that's very, very concerning. Yes. When you dive into Greco-Roman culture, I don't think the parents are really understanding. If they were to read what Greco-Roman culture is, I do not think you would want a school modeled after that. For number one, Greco-Roman culture is a dictatorship. There is no say so. The emperor has the final say in all. So basically, they're telling you, parents, your opinion does not count. If they are modeling this after a Greco-Roman empire, I mean, your opinion doesn't count. What you want for the school doesn't matter. There will be a council, so to speak. They will vote. But the emperor, or the principal, I should say in this instance, will have the final say and will not take any type of voting or any type of consolidation of thought from outsiders. That's what Greco-Romans did. Rome, I mean, if you study Marcus Aurelius, Caesar, the great Roman emperors, they had ultimate authority. If they want to model their system after that, I would not put my child. I would suggest you homeschooling your child before you put them in a system like that. Don't get me wrong. We need to learn about other cultures as well, but we do not need to assimilate into their systems. And this sounds like, to me, this school is taking a stance and creating a culture, not just an academic environment. So I just wanted to say that for the people in Detroit, please look into homeschooling if you're in the zone affected by this, because that doesn't sound good for Black children. That's just my opinion.
It isn't, and it's a tragedy. This is, again, not a conspiracy theory. I don't really get off into that. You can go to the Detroit Free Press, I believe that is .com. Google it. If you just put in Detroit Free Press, it'll lead you to the right site, and just type in their search engine something amongst the lines of 35,000 student school, something among there, and you should be able to pull it up. That's where I read the article. I fact checked it and everything, and I said, you cannot be serious right now. Like, I feel that we're almost in the face of a checkmate. When it comes to the masses, especially within Detroit, and knowing how the city has been used per se as a guinea pig for a lot of these agendas going on, and you have to just expect that with over 90, like I want to say 95% of the population within the city of Detroit being African, you have to understand that we're going to get hit the way we have. And for them to say that this school is coming, it's kind of like entrapment at that point. There's only 56 public schools, period. They're going to shut those down if they're suggesting a $35,000, a 35,000 student school with dormitories. Like, why do you need dormitories within a public school when the homes are in the city? So, thank you for shedding your light on that one. And going in further with the Greco-Roman society and how Black feminism and all that is tied within that thought. Do you mind expressing your views on how that particular thought process that Black women have been influenced with, how that has aided in the destruction of the Black family structure?
Okay, when you talk about feminism, we recognize through study that feminism is a racist concoction. It was developed by white women, along with the government, to advance themselves and deal with their issues with their white counterparts. Simultaneously, while they were doing this, they were exploiting and vilifying Black people in the process, especially Black men. Now, you can go research some records from the Equal Rights Amendment Club of New Orleans. They have a primary document in which feminists put together in their early stages. In this document, it talks about how the Negro man is inferior. So right away, Black women, they called your mates inferior. So everybody knows about the damage that feminism has done to the Black woman's mind, but they don't know how that their mission was to take the Black man out of the picture. So in this document, they call the Negro man inferior, stupid, dumb, incapable, incompetent. These type of terms are thrown around during this circle. But somehow they tricked our women into thinking their struggle was theirs. Now, if you are curious to where this mind state comes from, it is my hypothesis that it stems from their long history in Europe, and then Europe's cultural continuity with the United States that gave rise to this feminism. The white women, they have taken their narrow historical experiences and attempted to make them apply to everybody, universally almost. But that's not the case. It's not the case. And it's funny that we were talking about Greco-Roman culture earlier, because when you look at empirical Rome, you get a glimpse into European culture. And Roman culture, specifically as it regards to gender relations and its potential problems, these people were out of control. Let me read you an excerpt. Women in Roman times, though discriminated against and subject to abuse by poets such as Horace and Juvenal, they were still capable of standing up for themselves when aroused. One of the most contentious pieces of Roman legislation is the Oppian Law. That's Oppian. It is brought in on the proposal of the tribune. Remember, I talked about the councils when we talk about Roman culture. That's what they had. They had tribunes. The tribune was called Gaius Oppius. After the defeat of Hannibal at Cannae in 216 BC, with the object of reducing spending on luxury goods, among its conditions were that women were no longer allowed to possess more than a half ounce of gold, wear a dress dyed in a variety of colors, or ride in a horse-drawn carriage in a city or town or within a mile of it, except for on holy days. So this is what they thought about women in Rome. You couldn't have no money. You couldn't wear fancy clothes. And you couldn't ride in a carriage unless it was one of the holy days. This is the very foundation of the problem of why white women needed feminism. White women needed feminism because their male counterparts do not love them. They treat them as objects. They treat them as paraphernalia. They do not know how to express love for their women. So the white woman had an issue with how the white man treated her. Even during slavery times, the white man going off to the black woman in her slave quarters and cheating on his woman with the person that he sees as an animal. Now that's deep, right? I see you as an animal, but I still want you over my wife. And I'm willing to put my marriage in jeopardy for an animal. That's crazy, but that's what they did. So white women had an extreme problem with being controlled, with being manipulated, with being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And they had to create something to combat that. But that's their issue. Never in the history, I'm not going to say never, because some brothers fall short of the glory, as my grandmama used to say. But Black African men, as a consensus, our culture is not built around that. We have women in our traditional societies who are queens, dignitaries, priests, herbalists, singers, what they call griots and griotas. We have all of these positions for women in traditional African culture. We do not treat our women like a white man treats his woman. Therefore, it was no need for Black women to join this fight for women, because it's not a fight for women, it's a fight for white women. They are the ones with the problem. We were not treating our Black women like this. That's not the foundation of our culture. We have women on the throne, which is why a Black woman in Kemet named Aset name meant throne. That's not by accident. We saw the power of the woman and realized we could not do anything without her. That's why you don't see no single kings. You got to have a woman to be able to rule us. That is the rule. And you will find that rule throughout many African societies. Now, if you look at the creator of feminism, Charles Fourier, creator of the term feminist.
Break it down. Let's do it.
Believed in homosexuality. That is not a coincidence. And when you go into these feminist sections, you will start to see very quickly what the agenda of some of those women are in there. It is not for women's rights. It is not for women equality. It is for a hookup.
Say that.
Some of them women in there looking for a hookup. It's no coincidence that this Charles, this man who believed in homosexuality and his views have carried over till today. That's not a coincidence. Because when you go in these feminist sections and you hear them bashing the man ain't doing this, the man ain't doing that, the man ain't doing this, and he not doing this for us. And we need to, the balance is shifting. See, you blame us for everything. You don't take responsibility for anything. That's an imbalance.
Mm.
And when the imbalance is created, no healing can take place. I'm not saying that brothers is perfect by no stretch of the imagination. But what I'm saying is to work it out, you cannot work it out with all women. It has to be a joint effort. It has to be ma'at. But that is not what takes place. That is not what is taking place. No men are in these sections. So the pendulum is swinging towards all women. You find yourself around women all the time. Before long, and I've seen it happen a lot of times, you find yourself dating a woman. That's just what happens in these sections. And it's no coincidence that Mr. Charles wanted that from the beginning. Because what did he believe in? What was his culture that he was practicing? He was practicing homosexuality. He created this term, feminist. And now the two are almost going hand in hand today. Now we have to mention Miss Gloria. We have to mention Miss Gloria Steinem. But a lot of people don't know about Miss Gloria's publication. So in 1978, Steinem put a book out called Black, Macho, and the Myth of the Superwoman. Now listen to that title. Black, Macho, and the Myth of the Superwoman. This woman ain't black. Why is she speaking on black issues? That's red flag number one. She also had a magazine. It was called Miss Magazine. The magazine, she controlled all the narratives in the magazine. Now, there was a book written by a black feminist, and she was named, I think, Michelle Wallace, and she seemingly came out of nowhere, right? And she was being groomed as the face of black feminism.
Mm.
She was trained by Gloria. And in the book that she produced, she called abolitionists like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth ugly and stupid for supporting black men. Oh, yeah.
Don't surprise
Look
me.
this up. She called some of our greatest female champions, our freedom fighters, our black queens, our netchers, Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, ugly and stupid for supporting black men. She called the black revolutionary chauvinist, macho, the black woman to go it alone.
Mm.
Now, who are y'all following, sisters? Who are y'all following? Sisters don't want to go it alone, and neither do brothers. That's not how you work it out. That's the worst advice you could ever get. Because if every black sister just gonna go it alone, how are we gonna have black people? Because last time I checked, you need a black man and a black woman to produce a black family. Yeah, they got all type of other science stuff, but that can cause complications, and it doesn't give you a family. So Gloria said that Wallace's book would define the future of Black relationships. And she pushed hard to make sure that this book was received massive and publicly. Now, do we see the pattern that's happening here? We have a white woman that comes and buys a magazine company and puts out feminist rhetoric. They find a Black face to appeal to Black women, call our most sacred people that freed us ugly, call our revolutionary freedom fighters chauvinist, advise the women to go alone, and say that this will define our future. Now, to do all of this takes resources. This takes money. And we talk about 1978. Who has the money to pump this rhetoric into our community? Where have we seen this before? We've seen it with our own government. Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent. You don't believe me? It's on her doggone Wikipedia page. The woman was a CIA agent from high school. They've been recruited her. This was a mission. She was fulfilling her mission. They got somebody with some clout, somebody with a magazine, go out to a lot of people. They found them a Black face, a house Negro, a Sambo. They put her out in front while she pulls the strings in the back and supports. And before long, women falling for it. Now the Black man is the enemy. Now the Black man is the reason why everything is going wrong. And brothers, we got hit by a bus. We was like, what? What are you talking about? I don't treat you like that. First of all, Black women don't take no shit like that. let's be honest. Brothers, you start talking to your woman crazy right now, she gonna put something upside your head. She not taking that. That's why we never had no problems like white women had, because our women are strong. They're not going to take that crap. Never have, never will. Therefore, I have to keep reiterating that this was not our sister's issue. They got bamboozled into supporting it. And it trickles on down the generations to where some of these old ideals from feminism float around. You have women saying they are feminists, but they don't really know what feminist or feminism is or its root. And when they find out, they're disgusted. There's nothing wrong for standing up for women. There's nothing wrong in doing that. I suggest the term African womanist, because there is always a need for a woman's voice, a woman to stand up for women, like men stand up for men. But when you go into feminism, like I said earlier, imbalance is created in speech, in action, in the way you analyze things, and it's geared toward separation. When separation occurs, the imbalance is present, and you start blaming each other. And that's never good when you start blaming each other for things instead of figuring out how y'all can come together and create things. That's just what we got to start doing. We got to start taking our emotion and egos and pain and trauma and removing that from the conversation and start working on creating. There's nothing wrong with admitting you were wrong. There's nothing wrong with saying I'm sorry. That's for fellas and ladies. We need to get back to that. And that's why I'm an advocate of African culture, because we have mechanisms in place to where if you can't solve it yourself, we have elders, priests that can help you. They've been further down the road. They can give you counsel. They can give you divination. They can give you things to solve the issue. We all need tools in this life to accomplish things. Our culture and history gives us options in the forms of tools. Other cultures do not give you any tools. They give you a bunch of lip. African culture has tools for your development of your character, of your self-esteem, of your place and destiny in this life. This is why I advocate for people to come back to their culture. We didn't carry everything, man. We didn't carry the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedic text, the Moorish circle set. We didn't carry all that. We ain't carried no African culture though. We have not gotten to the root. We have been dealing with the leaves and the branches. So that is my suggestion for a solution, because I'm solution oriented. I'm not about a bunch of finger pointing. How can we solve the problem? And getting back to our cultures as African men and women can help us solve those issues.
I agree. And you hit on a lot of powerful points right there. And I just want to add a little bit of feminine energy to it. When it comes to Black feminism, and I have this dialogue so many times, and just as you said, that sister who was being trained by the devil, Gloria, came out and attacked, some of our great elders, and called them so many different negative things for supporting Black men. That energy is still very real. I face so much ridicule for doing what is naturally within me to love Black men, to uplift them, and knowing that our power lies within the Black family being together. All this holding on to the pain that we both have went through, it's not going to do anything but destroy our family and put our children at the most vulnerable level of attack, just as within this school that's getting ready to open up. Black woman, the white woman is not your God. Quit submitting to that devil. Quit submitting to her. Don't listen to her, baby. You stronger than that. You wiser than that. And you letting this dirty, filthy, disgusting she beast of a parasite continuously enter your mind to destroy you, your man, and your children while she tries to sleep with your man. Get you out the way. Take your everything about you that is beautiful. She goes to the doctor to get it done, the full lips, the big butt, the hips, and all that, while she's still telling you, don't trust your man. Your man ain't shit, but I'm going to sleep with your man the first chance I get. Sisters, we have to stop this, because it's not our men. Our men, yes, they are imperfect, but due to our being so blinded by our pain and our lack of understanding for their struggle, strife, and plight. We destroy them more than any devil could. When we look into what the brother was speaking upon, the financial resources that came with Gloria, we know this COINTELPRO is very real. And within that letter, I'm going to paraphrase, it says to prevent the rise of the Black Messiah, correct? So if we have the mentality as Black women to look at our men as nothing, as the weaker vessel, as if he's a beast, he's nothing. We destroy him on a daily basis, and we don't understand how all of this is systemically designed. You have that better job in that corporation for a reason, Black woman. Whereas 3 out of every 4 Black men are systemically designed, set up to get a felony. So therefore, he can't even get the jobs that's out here for him to get. And I'm not going to keep going because this is a topic that I can go in on too, brother. But I made a post on Facebook the other day, and of course I got a little bit of attack for it. I've been getting attacked for years from our sisters, and it says, "Queens, quit bashing your children's father. Believe it or not, he is struggling just like you are. He has been under attack in more ways than you can imagine since his birth, starting with circumcision. Circumcision cutting off his nerves to his genital area, and he had no choice in that. This deadbeat father ideology is nothing more than a European taught and learned illness. Honestly, the most of it's lies. Most of these Black fathers want to take care of their children. They want to be in their children's lives. In most cases, they cannot provide financially due to the lack of opportunity and societal inequality. Everything is by systemic design and structure. However, due to our misunderstanding this as Black women, we belittle them as if their only value in their children's life is financial. The true lessons a father has for his children cannot be gauged in dollar amounts. The rabbit hole runs deep with the current state of the Black man. Black women, if you truly love yourself and your children, stop letting your pain blind you to what is necessary to understand the pain of our men. If they fail, we do too. Stop being stupid and stop being selfish." And that's all I got to say about that, brother.
Indeed. Some of our men need special help. Psychological help. I get that. Pain affects people in many different ways. I understand that. But what I'm trying to convey tonight, do all you can to work it out. Not from a relationship standpoint, because sometimes those are irreconcilable. For him to be a functioning parent, if he has the desire to be a functioning parent, give him that choice. You know, I'm going to read a quote by Professor Walter Williams, economic professor Walter Williams, not the author. 60% of rapists, 72% of adolescent murderers, 70% of long-term inmates, and 70% of all young people in state reform institutions all have one thing in common. They were raised in a fatherless home. High crime rate problems is not only because of economics, but also because of the lack of the two-parent household. I'll say that one more time. High crime rate problems is not only because of economics, but also because of the lack of the two-parent household. Fathers matter just as much as our mothers. Economic professor Walter Williams. So That is not a proclamation for only fathers. That is a proclamation for a family. You heard what he said. The lack of a two-parent household. That is the goal. That is how it's supposed to work. That is what the children need. Because I talked about that imbalance. And sometimes brothers and sisters got to do what they got to do if the other parent is absent. And you got to try to make up for it in any way you can. And it's tough. My mother did it. And I know other mothers have done it too. And it sucks because it's not the way it's supposed to be. But understand, an imbalance has been created. For me and my mother, it was sports and getting a coach involved, a strong black man that could be around me to teach me how to be a man. Because men need that. And on the other side of the coin, if you're a father with a female, getting her around a strong black woman to teach her how to be a woman. I can't teach no girl how to be a woman. Don't know the first thing about it. I need help in that department. And it's okay to admit you need help in that department. We can't do it all. I'm rough, rugged, and raw. And you can ask my wife. I'm sometimes I'm cold. So you can't be that way with girls. You need a woman's touch in that department, something that you can't give her. So the two-parent household is the goal. There's got to be the goal for our black families. There's got to be. That stops the imbalance. That creates ma'at. That creates balance. And feminism is not geared to support a two-parent household. Black feminization is not geared towards a two-parent household. Family. That is what it's about. Raising the Black African family the right way and the healthy way. Because you don't want to cause psychological problems for children down the line because of your dysfunction. The healthy way. And using the tools of your ancestors to achieve this.
All praises due. Um, I'm just completely open right now to all of the ancestral knowledge that you have been sharing with us during this conversation, and I want to say thank you to you and your family, and for providing that example of righteousness and what African centered families look like. And we all owe you a great deal of gratitude. And I just want to say thank you again, King, for joining us. We're getting ready to wrap it up because our brother's on a completely different time frame than we are right now. And I'm pretty sure he has some things he needs to handle. However, do you mind once again sharing with our audience, look, who you are, where they can contact you, what services you provide, how can we support you and help you to continue on with your mission of our families?
Okay, they call me Black Panther. That's BLAKPANTHA. You can find me on my website, which is Panther Seher. That's spelled BLAKPANTHASERER. That's where you will find all of my articles, my children's book for African children, my videos that I conduct online, and things of that nature. Also, my YouTube channel is Black Panther. Our Mossi Warrior Clan YouTube channel is Mossi Warrior Clan altogether. which we have a bunch of videos up on different African cultures and societies. I always tell people the best way to support me is learning something about your culture and getting back to your traditions. So if anybody is ever interested in getting back to their traditions, I'm on Facebook as Benjamin Njai, Banjamin, last name spelled Njie. You can message me and we can try to help you get into the traditions and learn more about your culture. That's probably about it. Mossi Warrior Clan, Spears is flying, pseudos is crying. That is our motto. And is basically alludes to we throw our spears into falsehoods and people that try to take advantage of the community. I don't do this for money. I do not believe in bleeding blood from a rock, so to speak. I understand things cost, but if I'm fortunate enough to where I don't have to do this for compensation, I do this strictly for the love of African people. So follow us on those platforms, family. Tag a friend, share the video, and together, as I learn, we all learn.
Ashe. And I again, on behalf of the whole Get This Wisdom magazine staff, want to say thank you so much for sharing space with us. You are exactly what our people need to move forward any advancement of African liberation. And family, before we go, I'm gonna do a shameless plug real quick. The king spoke upon that devil, Gloria Stein. I don't know what her last name, Gloria Devil. That's her name to me. In her magazine, well, Get This Wisdom magazine was started 2 years ago with the objective of the empowerment of Africans globally. In our first year, we received the RBG Media of the Year Award for 2017. Shout out to Baba Amin and Lone Star RBG down there in Fort Worth, Texas, doing their thing. I'm so grateful for all of you who have supported us on our journey, and we will be coming back next month for our 2nd year anniversary issue. If you want to, check that out and get some good African liberation in the magazine format, the address, the website, pardon myself. I need a stamp. Okay, thank you, Queen. Okay, baby, thank you. Mommy's almost done. Give me a kiss. But he needs a stamp so he can go to the store. Okay, Queen. My babies are always with me. If you go through any of our other shows, you will hear them even doing interviews as well. But you can check out www.getthiswisdommagazine.com. We've had some of everybody on there, Red and Blue Pill, Keith Horton. We're getting ready to do something with Professor James Smalls and our brother Black Panther was one of the missing pieces to the puzzle. So the universe always provides. So again, thank you. Thank you so much, King. I will keep this for my personal reference. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel. We got our brothers Ankh Benu on there, Knowledge Born, used to teach African Liberation School. You got a whole bunch of knowledge. This is like a school for you on Get This Wisdom Live. So until next time, family, peace, love, and Black power. Oh, Shakti Sterner, by the way.